Three. Hello, everyone. Today I am with the Vice Chair, Michael Martin, and on this episode of Meet the NEC. And I have a couple of questions for him. I'm going to start out with asking Mr. Martin, even though I already said your name multiple times. What's your name?
My full name is Michael, Michael. Last name is Mottern, Mottern. Middle initial R is in Richard.
And then how old are you?
I'm 46,
And what's your location?
Buffalo, New York.
And what's your position within the organization?
First vice chairman.
And then what do you do for a living? Like, what's your career?
I work for the Buffalo Erie County Naval and Military Park.
Wonderful. So I'm going to move on to some general questions now. What is social democracy in your terms?
It's welfare. Hold on, let me sit down. Hold on.
Okay.
It's welfare state policies in the form of like national health care or higher learning. Hold on, can you pause for a second? I gotta catch my breath. Well, social democracy is not only welfare state policies, it's policies that help out underprivileged people. It's particular the disabled, the poor, and the most vulnerable in our society, like elderly people, veterans, and low income earners and middle income earners, and only people that are on fixed incomes. These are people that are poor whites. These are people that are very poor, underprivileged, and many times in the cities when it's a recession, economic recession, these people are doubly underemployed. These are African American males who, when white unemployment gets a cold, African American males' unemployment rate gets pneumonia. So we gotta make sure we gotta take not pride in that, but we gotta take eye at that and take notice about who is being serviced in this economy and who is not being serviced in this economy, and that mostly people who are of a Keynesian background, which is social democracy and economics, do not trust the government to have their best needs as opposed to FDR welfare policies, which is their best need. And we support and defend and really excel when it comes to the education and the reporting of our social welfare state, social welfare safety net. Once you have a social welfare safety net, you have a standard in society with a social floor, which means you're not going to be like in Hong Kong, where people are living in coffin apartments, where the apartment might be like this and it might just be the size of a bed. But when they close the door to the space that's open, that's occupied with six other spaces in a narrow space you just crawl through. That's called a coffin apartment in Hong Kong. It's one of the most dilapidated ways to live in a high rise that's been over or that's been,
Mm.
and it's infested with no ventilation and filth
Okay.
and disease. So
So
social floors put a standard on what is acceptable and what is not acceptable as far as housing and as far as our people starving. Excuse me, people starving in the streets without any benefits.
so social democracy to you, let me just recap what you said. Is helps the downtrodden and those that are underprivileged.
Yeah, and in a main in what Karl Marx would refer to as social legislation.
Social legislation. All right. What policy is most important right now?
Right now, it's got to be healthcare and then government accountability.
Okay. What misconception about SDUSA would you like to clear up?
The Vietnam War. Michael Harrington was not in favor of the Vietnam War, nor if he was alive today would he snub his nose at the Gaza conflict. He wouldn't do that at all. He would be very, very much saddened by the way the treatment of the Palestinians, or by the treatment of the settlers in the West Bank. He would have been although he'd been very labor Zionist, he would have definitely been sympathetic to the cause. But to say that the misconception is that Michael Harrington was, can you hear me or am I cutting
No, no, I can
out?
hear you just fine.
Oh, perfect. To say that Michael Harrington was like a crazy loon Zionist, or that because he didn't like the authoritarian model of socialism or communism in this case, that social democracy was bad and that he was a pro-imperialist because he didn't particularly like the Soviet Union model or like the Chinese model of communism. Also, the other misconception is that we weren't going to drop that the SD was wanting to focus on the Vietnam War, support it, and that the Shackmanites weren't going to drop everything they were going to do on civil rights to kowtow to the New Left anti-war movement, which was Stalinist and waved the North Vietnamese flag. They wanted to stick to civil rights, which is heavily contentious and very bitter because we're still dealing with civil rights. So that's a big misconception. Michael Harrington, what he thought, his Zionism, and then how the SD wanted to continue civil rights, as
Okay.
opposed to the New Left anti-war movement, which was seen as anti-pro-communist.
What personally led you to become involved in SDUSA?
I went to Europe when I was 21 and then lived in Vienna. Got to
Uh,
participate in the social demonstrations, learned about what the SPO was doing and SPD was doing, the British Labour Party, the Social Democrats, the center left
okay, wow.
in
Uh,
Western Europe, European politics.
yep. I'm gonna ask you some position related questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
What goals does the SDUSA hope to achieve in the next 5 to 10 years?
It's a good question, actually. 5 to 10 years, either pick up its membership to a higher pace, uh, become a wide tent policy like the way we are, except not, watch out and put some guardrails on, make sure it's not too woke, you know. But you could say the fight for human rights is an ongoing struggle unless it's the old biblical term beating our swords into plowshares.
I
We're
like
not
that one.
doing that right now. We're very much in an economic struggle and in a human rights struggle in this century. And I hope that the SD could be so influential like Bayard Rustin and A. Philip Randolph by, again, keeping on the moral side of history when it comes to the March on Washington or when it comes to recruiting you and your brother or when it comes to continuing the social democratic tradition that Norman Thomas and Eugene Debs in their torch that they passed on to me spiritually when I was a young person and I became a socialist.
Nice. Wonderful. Yeah, you have really good answers, Michael. It's very tells about your character and the type of
Thank
person you
you.
are.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. What wh- the blah, 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 blah. How do you see social or do you see social democracy happening within the coming decades?
Well, I have a feeling because, and I'm backtracking. I was going to say what changed me from a left libertarian to a social democrat. I actually was at a an anti-trico rally when we were anti-globalization in 1999, 2000. And it was in Buffalo, New York, when Trico, a really evil company that was treated their employees like absolute garbage, moved its company to a sweatshop in Mexico. And the company did a little research. The company, as the woman who changed my spirits from libertarian to social democrat, said in their contract that they have the right to research how long it takes to work a 14-year-old girl in a sweatshop till she collapses of exhaustion, hyperventilation, and maybe no water. When you have enough water and when you're dehydrated, and she brought this to the company's attention when they were having the negotiations, when they were moving the company south and using the taxpayers' dollars to subsidize it. Well, and then they said they created jobs. Well, what the company did, the company lawyer from the other side, basically looked at her, smirked out the side of his mouth, said, "Well, it's legal." That's really what changed me, and that's what changed me to from a libertarian to more like a humanist social democrat. Because overnight, that had an effect on me. I could have been a day laborer, as I was already a minimum wage employee. This affected me tremendously.
Wonderful, wonderful. Um, what is one thing you hope the public remembers after this interview?
I hope they remember exactly what turned me into a social democrat, because that's serious when companies have the right to do that, and that when individuals have the right to make profits exceeding $1 billion or $1 trillion.
Okay. And then last but not
I
least,
believe there should be a cap. I believe there should be a cap. I believe no more than 500 million.
okay, well, last but not least, what does your role as a vice head actually involve on a day-to-day basis?
Well, I'm the chief recruiting officer, so basically what I do is I recruit people and do the vetting process for everybody who's able, eligible, who wants to run, who may want to run, or who has ideas about what free consulting is all about, which is what we do.
Well, that
You want to know about education, social democracy, and how to run your campaign, what issues to take on? Talk to us. We'll tell you for free. Because progressivism, you can't profit off. It's impossible. It should be given away for free, like Jonas Salk and the polio vaccine.
wow. Well, I want to thank you for your time, Michael. I know that we had a little hiccup there for a little while, but that's all the
Sorry, I
questions.
said to catch my breath. You're the best, Moses. You really
Uh,
are.
no, the feeling's mutual.
Thank you.
So I will, everybody, that's Michael Martin, and I hope that this was an informative interview. Thank you, guys.